All righty. So we should be ready to go right now. But how are you doing this morning, Sini? Having a good morning?
Oh, great.
Great, great. Yeah. One of the things that, a lot of people that know me very closely, I always tell them, I talk about you and how long we've known each other. We've known each other now, it'll be 12 years this year. Could you believe?
Time flies.
Yeah, yeah, and I always tell them about my first day when I met you. We walked into Sifu Parker's school, and you were there, which was a little different because your schedule was, I think you would come in on Thursdays and maybe on Tuesdays. And you sat down with me, and we had our first conversation. It was my first interaction with anybody at that school, which was really, really fun. Long time ago.
I know it. How old were
Yeah.
you then?
Oh, I was 19. I was 19 when I walked in, and I had my afro at the time. I had a bunch of curls when I walked in, so that was a really fun time. But yeah, a lot of time has gone by, and one of the things I'm really glad that you're on because you've been one of the people. I mean, we talk all the time, but anytime that I've needed a question on leadership or an issue, I've always had you to come in. So I'm glad we get to kind of share that a little bit with the student body. But let's start off with a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself. Who are you, and what brought you to leadership? So why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Of course, I'm Glenn. I'm 22 years old. Just kidding. Well, no. What? Like I said, I've known Rand for quite a while, but I'm retired military. I came into the Air Force when I was about 20 years old. Spent 21 years in the Air Force. Started doing martial arts when I was about 20 years old. So I've been doing martial arts for 36 years now. So I guess you can guess my age now. So 36 years. And I retired from the Air Force back in 2005. Went back to college out at UTSA. Graduated there 2010, and opened up my school in 2010. And I'm a massage therapist also, and that's where I'm at now. Teaching martial arts and doing massage therapy and enjoying life.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and one of the things that that's been great over the years is anytime I've had a leadership thing that I was thinking about, something in terms of either team members or a situation, I've always come to you, and you've always talked to me a lot about how important it is to really know your team, work with your people, and so can you fill us in a little bit on your feelings on that in terms of leadership as an overall? What do you think about that?
Well, absolutely, yeah. So, being in the military, one thing about the military, it provides you a lot of opportunities to practice leadership. And my last I would say about 4 or 5 years, I was what we call a first sergeant in the military.
Mhm.
And one of my responsibilities was I was responsible for the morale, the welfare, and discipline of the troops. I would have as many as anywhere from 200 to 500 troops under my leadership.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, in different areas, different careers, I would say are, you're put into a leadership position because of your technical skills, because
Mhm.
you're good at your jobs and whatnot. And that doesn't always prepare you for leadership. And I've always thought that being a good leader really means knowing your people, being able to manage people. And,
Mhm.
and you're not going to be able to do that unless you really know your people.
Mhm.
So that's I think that's a very important. All the other things are good. A good leader needs to be compassionate. He needs to have empathy. They
Mhm.
need to be very knowledgeable. But if you have all those and you don't know how to manage people, you're gonna get into a little bit of trouble, I think.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And one of the things that has been a big thriving thing in our friendship, but also that I've seen you do with other people, is you're a very good listener. You will sit back and you will hear what they have to say, and you will give them feedback in a way that is like, yeah, I see it from your perspective. And some people look at it like this, and some people look at it like this, and you're able to really give that to other people. And I think that's a very valuable skill when it comes down to working with team members. And is that kind of how you conducted your teams as you went on through your situations or anything that came up?
Oh, absolutely. You know, a lot of times as a leader, you'll have a, you have an individual. I can give an example. I won't call any names, but I have an individual who was normally a pretty good worker. They kind of work on time, but they stopped. They started coming to work late. They were kind of slacking in their job, and this was going on for a little while. But instead of just dropping a hammer on them, which a lot of people was, they really give them a hard time. I called this individual into my office, and I had a chat with them and find out that they had a lot of different issues going on. They had a child at home, they was having medical issues, they were having trouble paying the bills, just a lot going on. And as a leader, had I not, taken the opportunity to talk to this person, I could have lost a good troop there, And so we were able to work through the situation, get them back on track, and that person went on, to progress in their career. But if I didn't know my people, I wouldn't know that this person is acting out of character. So because I knew that individual well, I knew that this wasn't their character, and there had to be an underlying problem. So that's just one example of the importance of knowing your people. And you're not going to get to do that unless you're out and about. One of the things I used to do in my leadership position, I would always be out among the people, talking to people, establishing that rapport. That way, when there is an issue, they feel very comfortable coming to me because they're used to seeing me, they're used to being around me and whatnot. So.
Oh yeah, and I've seen you do that in person with a lot of people. You are very engaged when you're teaching your classes or when anybody, because we've been in the situation where we've been at your school, we were either training or talking, and somebody came in, and you're very good about, oh hi, my name is Glenn, welcome in, how can I help you? And they could have either a problem or anything, and he goes, and you're saying, oh, that's fine, well, what's going on? And you're very good about that quick engagement, even when it comes to people that you don't know, which I've seen a lot. And you've really worked in that way. And it's really great because you knew me from 20 years ago, and you knew that, or 12 years ago, excuse me. I was thinking, it feels like that, yeah, because we're very close. But you've known me that when I first started off, I was very impatient, but you always said, well, Ram, like it's okay to be impatient, but you let me kind of grow into that. You walked me through that. And it was something that took time, but you've always seemed to have that. Is it primarily just because it's the best way to know somebody, get to know what's going on, get to the problem? What's your main kind of drive with that? Because that patience is really impressive.
Well, yeah, I remember those times, Ram. Those are And one of the things I think as a leader, you have to be able to give the people who you're bringing up, you have to be able to give them a task to do, and then you got to get out of the way and let them do it. And you also have to allow people to make mistakes. Now, I'm not talking about critical mistakes that's going to stop the mission or it's going to make your business shut down, but you have to have room, because if I don't allow an individual to make mistakes, they're not going to grow. That's when you grow, when you make mistakes, you learn from them. So as a leader, I have to be able to listen to their ideal, think about if it's going to cause a problem or not, how big the problem is going to be. And I may need to let you fail so that you can learn. So you need to have patience in that situation and to allow that person to grow, because they're not gonna be able to grow if you don't allow them to fail.
Yeah.
And then teach them along the way. Don't let them fail and then don't teach them or anything, but allow them to fail. And your example, every time we had a situation, and you always come back and say, hey, you know what? You were right. And that's another point, is I think to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower. And that's a good example you were doing, as being a good follower, because I think if you're a good follower, then you're always very passionate about what you're doing. And that's something I think you remember me telling you all the time, Ram, you're very passionate. And when you're a good follower, you're very passionate about whatever situation you're in, the business, the job, you're just very committed to it. And you need those qualities allow you to grow and to learn things that you're going to need to be a great leader. So, and even once you are a leader, you still have to be a follower, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and they're definitely different hats. And I think that the great thing is that you really do learn that when you have somebody who's helping you on the way and who has that kind of patience, because the team needs it, the people need it, whoever you're talking with or you're leading, they need that. And and it's true, we don't know what's going on with the other people in that time if something's happening, and that's something I really had to learn as well. You know, like you don't know the full situation, but you have to have that grace and patience with those people and communicate, which I think really was demonstrated in that story. So it it really has helped me out over the years. And also there's something else that really has impressed me with you as a leader. You're always trying to work to the good of yourself and the other person. You're not trying to just, oh, let me talk to them so that I can do what I need to do. You're talking with them because you want the best outcome for the both of you. And that's something that's been really impressive to me, because it, what's the word? It really, it's impressive that you can see through that. You're always kind of aiming to that better good. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Do you have any kinds of stories like that?
Well, you know, you just have to, you know, you should always be looking for the for every situation. When there's bad situation, I always try to look for the good that I can bring. You know, what's the lesson that can be learned from the situation? You know, how can this individual grow from it? How can I grow from it? Because as a leader, I'm not always right. You know, my ideals may not always be the best ideal, but you know, and I want to make it clear too, like. Being a leader, being, you know, listen to your people doesn't mean that you're a wimp, you know, whatnot. You know, as a leader, you still have to be decisive. You know, there's times I used to always tell my troops, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. You know, so as a leader who is looking for the best of people and trying to bring out the best of people, sometimes you will have to do the hard things. You know, sometimes you are going to have to let people go. There's part of my job as a first sergeant would be the discipline part, making a recommendation to the commander that this individual gets discharged from the military. But you should always, if it ever comes to that point, you should have a good conscience, knowing that you've done everything you could to work through this situation to help this individual out. And I can tell you, every person that we end up putting out of the military, they still left with a pretty good idea, because they could look at us as leaders and say, hey, you know what? This individual tried everything they could to help me out. You know, I just messed up. So you are going to have to make the tough decisions. But being a leader should be about, as we talked about, people, taking care of your people, knowing your people, but also making future leaders, and also knowing that everybody's not going to be a leader. Because there's, you know, that's the other thing. There's going to be people, and so you have to, and that's when you talk about rewards. You know, sometimes people do a great job, and you automatically give them this big promotion and whatnot. Maybe that's not what the reward they want. They may be very good followers. They know they are leader material, and which is okay. The world can survive without followers. And, but you have to be able to, you know, look at people, know their strengths, know their weaknesses, help them to, you know, capitalize on their strengths and help them to improve their weaknesses. You have to know that for yourself also. And one of my other things about being a good leader is just really is, you know, I think back in the day, years and years ago, the leader had to be the expert at everything in the organization. They had to be the best at it. But I think as a leader, you need to be pretty knowledgeable. You need to know a lot about everything that goes on within your organization. But you, more important, you need to surround yourself by the experts, by good people. You know, one of my strengths, as you know, is I'm very good with people. But when it comes to the books and marketing and stuff like that, hey, I immediately turned, when you and I were working together, I immediately said, Ram, this is yours, because you were just so good at marketing, so good at numbers, and instead of me trying to hold on to that, take control of that, as a leader, I have to be able to let you use your strength. So that makes sense there.
Oh, it does. It does. You know, one of the things is that was probably one of my harder lessons, that one and the understanding, you know, trying to look at myself. Those were two of the hardest ones. And I've had the privilege of really trying to get my team to the point where now I can really feel comfortable with just taking a step back. And I always let my team know that I'm doing that, that, hey, listen, you know, I'm taking a step back. You do this really well. Often do it. If we have problems, just let me know. And that was one that was really tricky, but also at the same time, you know, taking that step back to not having to be the one that knows everything. I think that people put unnecessary pressure on themselves because of that, because we can't do it. You know, we can't.
And I think a good test, like, you know, you have a there's people out there who, when they leave the organization for a vacation or something, that falls apart, and they like that because they say, oh, you know, I feel like I'm needed all the time. But a good leader, if you can leave, for example, yourself, Ram, if you can leave your school and take a vacation for a month, and that school runs like just top shape, that means you were a good leader. You prepared your people. But if you leave, every time you leave, something falls apart. That means you as a leader, you aren't doing your job. You aren't preparing your people for success. So to me, a good sign of a good leader is that they can disappear for a week or two, a little while, and things don't fall apart.
Right, right. And I think that a lot of it really just comes down to that team building. I mean, that team building that you, because not only do they have to have confidence in what they're doing, I have to have confidence in what they're doing. I have to feel like they're okay. And it's one of the things that is everybody, it all needs to mesh. And if you have that team building, that understanding, that ability to see things, that ability to walk away, step away, that ability to listen, it just makes things infinitely better. You can have whatever technique you want, but if you're not making those connections with your team, it doesn't work. You know, it really doesn't feel good. So, and we've seen that. You and I have seen that personally with other people, that things start to crumble when you don't create connections.
Oh yeah, and you also have to be able to pair up. Within your organization, you may have to set teams. You know, I think we talked about before that I can have several instructors in my school, or you're gonna have those individuals who are like, they're leader, they're, I guess, type A. They like to be in charge, and they're very good when they are in charge. You're gonna have those people who are good support. You know, they're really support. They're gonna follow the leader and help out. If you put those two people who want to be in charge together and have them run a class for you, the students in that class may not get the best benefit because those individuals are going to be clashing all the time. And opposite, if you put the two people who are just great followers in one class to run a class, then that class is not going to have great leadership. So you have to be able to match the people up. You have to be able to match the proper personalities up to get the best result for your business, your organization, your school.
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying that you really got to paying attention and be vigilant to what kind of people are there with you and working with you. Yeah, because you don't want that kind of chaos when they're supposed to be in charge of people below them, because then it just spreads.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been one of those things where it's been a long process, but I think you being a good mentor with me has been a really big driving force in that, because there were times where I would get upset and I would be just really like, oh, I want this so bad, I want this so bad, and you're like, no problem. You know, that was a very big difference in everything. You keep this kind of calm demeanor. You have this very good calm with things. Uh, I really can't say that enough. So what allows you to kind of keep that calm during the situations? Do you have anything in particular?
I don't know whether it's just my personality or it's just knowing that's what's best and practicing doing it. I mean, I think you hear that this individual was born a leader. I don't think leaders are born. I think leaders are made. And I think it's just I wasn't always like that. It just came with practice. Knowing what I need to do and doing. It wasn't always it's not always easy to stay calm
Yeah.
when the other person's blowing up. But one of you have to. So it took practice. So I just think it takes practice, takes knowing what to do, and then applying it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there's been a couple of times over the years where uh, we've had discussions about just how things will pass and you're going to do well, and just make sure that you do the best that you can do right now. And that's sometimes the best thing that you can have, is that ability to just know that this will pass, things will be okay, keep it going. Tell us a little bit about that outlook for yourself, because that's been a very big thing for you.
Well, to me, it's about really just kind of looking at the situation, looking at the things that you can control in that
Mhm.
situation, and working on those things, because there's going to be things and situations that you have absolutely no control of.
Mhm.
So you do your best. You work on the things you can control, and things are going to pass. Things are going to
Mhm.
get better.
Yeah, and they've always been that way. I mean, because you and I, over the last 12 years, we both have had our challenges, and they've both been, and we've had great ones and very great ones and very hard ones, very difficult ones. And the prevalent thing has always been this really good outlook and attitude. And I think that everybody can probably take a page out of that book, especially right now because of the uncertainty with everything, is just knowing there's things you can't control. There's things you got to do the best that you can do,
Absolutely.
and making sure that it's just one step at a time. And I think that we tend to forget that a little bit.
Oh
Am
yeah.
I right about that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, even the situation like what you're talking about now with the coronavirus and not being able to have classes, you can sit around and mope about it, or you can do what you're doing. You can take actions. Hey, I had no control. You had no control whether you can open up your school right now, but you can offer these online chats, online
Mhm.
classes, and you're making the best out of the situation,
Oh
and
yeah,
it will
yeah.
get better. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know you've been in. Let's shift our gears a little bit, because you've not only done leadership and military, but you've been in martial arts for how long? How long have you been doing martial
36 years now, over 36 years.
arts? Oof. And where'd you start off with?
I started off I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. I started off taking Kempo karate.
Hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that I really loved talking with you about when I was first starting off was you would always talk about how you did tournaments when you moved into Hawaii, I think, right? You moved over to Hawaii.
I did tournament in Hawaii.
Yeah.
That was back in the young days when I was a young like you were.
But there was one story you told me, and and I think it's the one that stuck with me the most. That it was that you were always in the tournaments, and some people would not sign up because they saw you there. So what you decided to do with do you remember this story that I'm telling you? What you decided to do, or you decided that okay, you would sign up for the tournament, but you wouldn't suit up until it was time for you to fight, so that they wouldn't know that you were in it or something. Is that what it was?
Oh yeah, then
Yeah.
and most of, and you the tournament circuit, you knew everybody. So most of the guys were your buddies and stuff like that. So it was just a fun thing to do. Sign up and and then at the last minute, oh, I am participating.
Yeah, and but you talked a lot about your experience over the years with martial arts, and you were doing. How long has it been that you've been doing Wing Chun Kung Fu?
Gosh, Wing Chun, probably. I mean, gosh, a long time, over 25 years now. So
Yeah,
a
yeah.
long.
I remember when I first walked in that first day, because that was my first question when we sat down. I was like, I asked you, so how long have you been doing this? And you sat back. You said, "Oh, I've been doing." Wing Chun here for about 13 years. I was like, 13 years, because it wasn't even my first day of training. It was just my first day walking in. I was like, wow. And so, yeah, but it was a really fun thing to train. I mean, for forever, we trained a whole lot when it came down to it. But that's part of the reason why we were able to do what we do, open up your school, and same with me. And it was a fun trip. We had a lot of, we've done a lot in that regard together, which has
It's
been
fun
really
to think
good.
about how things have changed since the time we first met.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
especially you where you're at right now. You know, running the school.
Yeah. Well,
And I think it's always been a dream of yours from day one when you started. You know.
yes, yes. I mean, well, because I told you this, and I don't know if everybody else has heard it, but it was May 1st, 2008, when I walked in and I said that, right before, it was after my first lesson, Justin Potter did my first lesson. And I walked out and I said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And ever since then, it's been that same way. And it was because, I really believed that there was something good in there, something genuinely fun and good. And now it's given me this opportunity to teach other people, to be a better person, to be a leader. And I think that martial arts is a really great tool for that, to bring out that
Absolutely.
ability. And I think you and I have both seen that throughout the years, right?
Yeah, I think there's change. You know, because one thing about a leader, if you think about it, especially in your case, you teach a lot of you teach kids, and
Hmm.
as a leader, somebody's always watching. You're always being watched. You know, not just at school, but anywhere in life. If you're out in public, one of your students see you, they're watching you, and um, and you have a chance to change that person. You're going to change so many people's lives. You may not see the change, but you're going to change lives. And so what you do as a leader is so important. So I
Hmm.
think that's something people need to remember, that as a leader, you're always under the microscope. So you're not going to be perfect, but you need to be able to do the right things. When you make mistakes, you need to be willing to own up to them so you can make that example.
Yeah, so you're really talking about making sure that you are that role model for anybody that you're with, and that more is what's the saying? More is caught than taught, right? More is caught. They catch you, they see you, and so you've got to really walk that walk. And it's been good over the years because I've seen you go through a lot of difficult situations and seen you navigate through that, and that's really helped me to be a lot more patient. And I think that if anybody spent some time just having a conversation with you, they'd see that same thing. What are some of your goals that you have as a leader, Glenn? Because I know you've been doing this for a good while. What are some goals you have going forward in the future? Do you have anything you're looking forward to? I know you're moving into your new house right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, just my goal as a leader, it hasn't changed. It's always is to make people who are under my leadership, for them to be better than I am, and that's kind of always been my goal. As a martial artist, I want them to be a better martial artist than I am, a
Mhm.
better person, learn from my mistakes. So, and that remains my goal is make those who come after me better than I am.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a really good aim to go for. And that's what I try to do with the student body, because the kids that come in and the adults that come in, they're all usually looking to be better at something, at some way. They're better fitness, discipline, self-defense, martial arts in general. And I can't be all these things, so but I want them to be better than that, better at this way, right? And it's a tricky thing to do, but you have to just do it one step time, day by day. And I think that over time, that really creates a lot of good things. And we've seen a lot of people over the years come and go, and we've really tried to make a difference in that way, which has been good. And I think we have, because there's a couple of people that you've worked with that I've seen just improve just so immensely, either mentally or physically. Like Barry, for example. Barry was really nice guy. Why don't you talk a little bit about Barry?
Well, Barry's a great guy. And it's not just Barry. I mean, a lot of guys. You got Barry, you got Carlton, you got
Mm.
different people. I tell all the students when they come to the school, uh, don't look at Ram over there. Just using you as an example, as a student, don't try to be better than Ram, but don't try to be better than Will. Um, the goal is for you to be better than you are right now, for you to
Mhm.
improve, because we're not gonna. Everybody's not gonna be the same level. A 50-year-old who walks in there is not going to be as as strong and agile as a 20-year-old there. But what's
Mhm.
important for that 50-year-old to continue to improve from where they're at now.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right.
And I think as a martial artist, I'm not looking to just improve someone physically, but also mentally, give them self confidence and whatnot. So when you talk about different individuals, that's the whole goal. And it's easy for a teacher to teach that gifted student.
Mm-hmm.
But the real difference when you can take the least gifted student who has some physical or mental challenges and have them to improve, that's the real test, and that's the real joy of seeing that person, become better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's important. That goes back to what you were talking about. You have to go to the individual. You have to know what they are looking for and what they're trying to aim for. And it's incredibly important because after a while, if you're not listening, people notice. People notice when you're not listening, and they don't want to be around and be under your tutelage or leadership or anything if you're not paying attention. I think you're doing that one. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been really something, but I can go on and on about talking about our stuff over the years, but it looks like some people are asking some questions right now. Let me jump in. So I really do appreciate having you, and I really appreciate going through a couple of the things. And it's been a wonder being your Si-bak. For everybody who's not familiar with the terminology, I'm his kung fu younger brother.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And it's been a very fun time, but I'm really glad you got to jump on. Let's see what some of the people have to say right here. So it says, hello to Sifu Glenn and Military Battle Buddy. So I'm not sure who this one is. Let's see. I think that might be Master Joe earlier, but he says hello. And then we also have, sound like you're talking. Oh, Master Joe, put in the chat if this is you, because it says anonymous attendee, and I'm not sure who this is. But it says, Sifu Glenn, sounds like you were talking about my military background through my 31 years, and he says, laugh out loud. Yeah. And then this one right here, question. What do you think about what the outcome is when you try to do everything yourself and not let others help out? And how does it affect their growth when they see that from you as a leader?
I think when you try to do everything yourself, you rob those under you of the opportunity to grow. And also, if you try to do everything by yourself, you're gonna eventually wear yourself out. So it's gonna make the whole team fail. But I think the biggest thing, like I said, is you really get to rob those who are under you. You don't let them grow. You don't put them into leadership positions. I just think it's pretty bad, and you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna burn out quickly.
Yeah, and we've seen that quite a bit over the years. You see somebody that's just, they try to do every little split decision all the time, every day, and after a while, they're just done. They don't have any more to give.
And having said that, I don't just like throw a job on someone. I think one of the things also is preparing those under you for the role of leadership. You don't just take a person and say, hey, go in there and teach this class, but you got to do your job as a leader by preparing them for it, by teaching them how to teach, by teaching them leadership skills and whatnot. So you give them the skills, and then you give them the playground, the battleground, whatever, to hone those skills in leadership as well. So.
Yeah. You set it up so that they can win. You set it up so that they can make. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good. And also, it looks like we got a whole bunch of people on our Facebook. I think AJ and Nate are watching this. So welcome in, guys. It's good to see you and hear from you. If you want to ask Glenn a question, keep track of it. If you want to ask him something, I'm keeping track of it. So anybody else on our end, Glenn, do you see any questions on your end? Because sometimes they don't show up on my end.
Let me put my glasses on.
Yeah, it should be in the Q&A. If anybody else has a question for Glenn, just write it in the Q&A box.
There.
Hmm?
Don't see anything.
Don't see anything. Okay. Well, I've got another one, Glenn. What would you recommend as a good starting point? Because you know that I work with a lot of people when they start off young. What do you think is a good starting point for a martial artist starting up? Where would they start with in terms of getting better with their technique, getting more focused, developing the kind of qualities that they need to get their black belt or go all the way? Where do you think they would start out at?
I think, like we talked about earlier, being a good follower and repetition. You know, I think one of the things as young people and older people too is if we learn something new, we're so focused on, man, we got to get to that next level that we don't take time to repeat. And if you talk to just a lot of successful people, a lot of great people, that's a lot of repetition, you know, and repetition can get boring. But you got to put time. I tell students, the time you put into yourself outside of class is the most important. You got to come to class to get taught, but you got to go home and you have to practice your skills, and not just physical skills, but the models, the things that your instructor's teaching you. You have to take those to heart and really learn them, really ingrain them. And to me, that's very, very important.
Yeah, so the practice time and the time away.
The foundation.
Yeah, yeah, and that was something that we saw you do quite a bit, because every time I would call when I was first starting out 12 years ago, it was either you were doing work or you were practicing or you were with your family. Those were the three things that you were.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really helped.
And you mentioned that family, and even those who don't have families also balance. Also, you got to practice it a lot, but you got to have a balance. You know, you got to have a life also. So I think it makes you a better person if you don't eat, drink, and sleep martial arts, but you have to put a lot of time into it. But you got to also take care of the important things also.
Yeah, and another story comes to mind because you used to also do Aikido, and you were telling me a story about your instructor that you all would be training and he would be in the corner practicing his writing or practice or playing. Yeah, and
I could never, I was a young martial artist, and I was living in Japan, and my Aikido instructor that we would be training, some of the other instructors would be teaching us, but he'd be in the corner doing calligraphy or doing something else. And I just couldn't understand, how can you not be doing Aikido? How can something else interest you more than Aikido? But I was young then, and as I grew, I learned to realize that there's more to life than martial arts. So it's a big part of my life, but it's like I said, balance and everything.
Yeah. Balance. And that was something I had to learn too, because you saw me many years ago and that's all I would do, eat, sleep, and drink. And you told me that story. And now that I'm married and that I have the school and everything, there is a lot to it, but I still do enjoy the practice. It's just that there's more important things as you get older. And so it was kind of a lesson that I had to learn too. And you were a big part of that. And we got some other questions here. This one's from Master Joe again. He says, as a leader, what do you think can cause a leader to lose track and focus?
Gosh, I don't know. There's so many things. There's one of the things we talked about earlier is trying to do everything for yourself and not getting help. That's definitely going to eventually cause you to lose track of what's going on, lose focus. And another thing is as a leader, you can forget that you need to grow. So I think as a leader, you should always be reevaluating yourself. Thinking about what do I need to prove, and what are my weaknesses that I need to that I need to improve on. So I think that will cause you to lose focus and lose track of everything if you forget about yourself. So you and it goes back to what we talked about balance. So as a leader, you haven't arrived. It's a journey. And I think leadership is a journey. You're always growing. So what goes for your followers also goes for you. Very good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. And it's true. I mean, you really do have to focus on the journey. And that's one of the harder things for most people is they they want the moment that they get what they want. They want that moment so much, but they don't enjoy the process. And after a while, you just don't want to do the process anymore. And so, yeah, I can see that 100%. And here's another one right here. This one's from Howie Nestel. He says, "Thank you for your service, Si-bak Glenn. I love the information on leadership. What can you share from your military training with us civilians out here to get battle ready against this pandemic?"
Oh wow. I don't know. I just say, listen to the experts, but don't listen to everything. Just do your research. I tell people you have to listen to the media, but do your research, get the facts, and and be able to make the best decision that you can on the information that you have. Don't take it lightly. Just kind of use common sense, and in the military we always have to get our facts together. You can't I don't know, just jump in a battle without finding out what's going on, having the right information.
Yeah. And what would you say about mentally being able to face what's going on today? What would you say would probably be the best thing?
I don't know. It depends on the individual. Me is my faith. Me is my faith in God. That's what keeps me going. I know things are going to be okay. So it depends on the individual. I always had that feeling. To me, my thing is that time is going to go on. Things are going to happen. Whatever we're going through, we're going to get over it. We're gonna learn from it. And even this situation is going on now, you have to look at. I think a lot of companies, a lot of individuals are going to learn from it, because I think it's exposing a lot of cracks. Some people found out that they were very prepared. There's other people who found out we weren't prepared at all for this year. So I think it's gonna be a time of growth, and I think you got to take advantage of the time that you're at home. I think some of the positives that's going to come out of the situation. There's going to be stronger families, hopefully. You don't drive each other crazy, but you take that time to really bond. Fathers and mothers with their sons and daughters, just rekindling that relationship and whatnot. So think about taking advantage of the time that you are at home with your loved ones.
So you're saying that a lot of it is based on individual, and for you, the biggest thing is faith, but also at the same time, during this time, keep track of what's important. See things for what they are, and keep track of what's important, because that's what's going to kind of get you through these things.
You think about even families. One of the biggest things is family. Parents work all the time. They don't get to spend the time with their kids. So now you're stuck at home with your kids. So take advantage of it, because it's not going to last forever. So.
That's true. That's right. Well, that's great. And I think that was an awesome answer. Good question, Howie. Very good. And this one's another one from Master Joe. He said, "This is a question for the both of us." Okay, so both of you all. Why do you think people get to black belt and quit and do not feel they need to continue on learning? So that's a good question. You want to hit that one first?
I don't know. It's tying the black belt is going to be individual, because they're going to be everybody comes in is going to be at a different maturity level. Physical level. So I think there could be a goal for like black belt. The average person gets black belts in X amount of years, but it's not going to be the same for everybody. So just because Ram gets a black belt quicker than me doesn't mean that Ram was more committed than I was. He was a hard worker. He got there, so it wouldn't take anything from him, but it might just mean that I was a little bit slower learning, but I was still doing the best I could. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be the individual. So I don't. There's some people who will see individuals get black belts early and they say, "Oh, that person got their black belt too soon." But you can't really say that, because that individual, you don't know the hours they put in. You don't know their background, whatnot. Or this person took, too long to get their black belt. They're a slacker. You don't know that. You don't know their mental capacity. You don't know their physical ailments. You don't know what's going on in their life. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right on the individual level and the goal level. My biggest thing when I see that is that a lot of the times it's tough because of the individual thing, but if I try to put it in a general way, I think that you can't just have an underlying goal to just get black belt. I think it all has to go beyond that. And that's how it is with everything in life. Because how many of us feel like once we get really close to a goal, we can start easing up on the throttle because we know it's going to be easier to get it? Like how many of us do this all the time? And my thing that I've seen over the years is as soon as you're getting to that goal, you should set another one right after it so that you get to this one and then you keep going instead of easing off. Now, if you need rest, that's one thing. But if it's just, oh, I'm getting close, I'm already gonna get it, that's when you start to open yourself up for mistakes and wanting to quit because set that as your endpoint. And once you set your endpoint in your head, that's when you're ready to stop. So I think that's one of the main reasons that I see that you got that they have to have it instilled to go beyond black belt, not just at black belt to keep on going.
I think, like you said, Ram, too, goals are important. You do need a goal there. They're not set in stone, but they are important. They do keep you from slacking and whatnot. You know, so they're super important. But
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have their different own reason for coming in, and the reason you start martial arts,
Mhm.
you know, it may change once you get there.
Oh yeah.
Things may change.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it changes. It changes with every big jump. Like, for example, now I remember back, when I first started, I wanted to be super high up. This rank, fifth practitioner, fifth degree. I want to get to that point. And now what it is I think now it's more a matter of trying to just be a better person every day because my life and responsibilities just got too big where martial arts couldn't solve all of it. You know?
And that's funny you say that because I think we all started that when we started martial arts. All when I started martial arts, all I thought about I got to get my black belt and whatnot. And so, but as we get further along, those things become less important than us becoming we start saying, oh, I just want to be very knowledgeable. I want to be good at what I do, regardless of the belt.
Mhm.
And as a leader, you had a young saying, I want my black belt. You got to remember how you were. And you got to remember that you change and that they can change as the time goes. So,
Mhm. Absolutely right. And that's what's going to happen over time. And that leads me to this next one. So Master Joe is asking this, what makes a black belt, the belt or the person? I like that question.
what does what now?
But what makes the black belt, the belt or the person? So what is
The person.
and you and I have seen over the years, we've seen people that have the belt or they have the outfit or they have it, but when you touch hands with them, you're just kind of like, huh, you know what I mean? We've had this multiple times, and then we've seen, in my opinion, which is the absolute failure. We've seen not the failure as a person, but failure in terms of the process is the person who's just so full of themselves and they have all of these ranks. It really is sad because those are the people that you don't want to practice with, you don't want to train with, you don't want to associate with, and we've seen a lot of people like that over the years.
I think,
Yeah.
and I think having a black belt is the physical component of it is just a small component of it. There's so many fatality, so kind of what you hit on there, around. So
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, it's one of those things that does test you every day as you're going through to get your black belt. I mean, your character is tested, your focus is tested, your want is tested, and you really have to work on all of those things because what's the old saying? There's a really old saying, and it's about karate. It says, what is it? Karate without the character is just fighting. Right. And you don't want to be that kind of black belt. You really don't want to be it. And I think that you all both know that when you have the character, when you have the learning, when you have all of these things, it makes you a much better black belt, and in turn, a much better person because you had the character. Yeah.
And you know, as a black belt, you know you grow. I mean, of course, you know that. I mean, you know how you ran when you're not just you, but all of when we first became a black belt, and the point where we're at now, we're not the same person. So
No.
black belt is not the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. So.
Right, and that's something I'm pretty sure that's something Daniel says all the time. You know Daniel, my instructor, or my student Daniel. He's an instructor. He's a really good instructor. But I think that's something you say all the time, Daniel. If you want to chat me right now to let me know about that, I'm pretty sure that's a you saying. But you're right, 100%. It's that you're going to be the beginning. It's not just the end. I think it goes back.
Yeah, I tell my students when they get their black belt, I say, you know, this just means that you have a very good understanding of the basics. Now you're ready. To learn.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly, and it does take time, but you know, everybody who's earned their black belt never wants to give back that time and to give back that belt, right? They always are fine with giving up the time and the focus and the effort to get what they have done. It's something that's really important. I always ask them, you know, if I gave you X amount of money, would you give back your black belt? And I just keep raising that money amount, and nobody wants to give it up. It means a lot to people, you know. So anyway, Daniel just Daniel says, oh yeah, I usually go by that mantra. He says black belt is the beginning. I love it. Let me see if I've got another one. All right. Okay, so Sifu Glenn, it sounds like the difference between an E5 and a real sergeant. That's what Master Joe says.
Oh, I like that. People understand that.
Yes. Well, Glenn, I mean, it looks like we're at time right now. Let me see what time we're at. Yeah, it looks like we're right at time. So does anybody else want to ask Mr. Sifu Glenn any more questions? We still have a little bit of time. If you all want to ask one or two more. Let's see, going once. Even the people on our Facebook, going twice. All right, so I guess we're going to be just stopping there, Glenn. But Glenn, it's always a pleasure. And, you know, I'm glad that we got a chance to talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I really had a great time. Thanks for everybody for chiming in there. So.
No worries. And if you ever want to go visit Sifu Glenn, he's at Alamo City Wing Chun, which is over there on 410 and Fredericksburg Road. And they'll be opening up probably soon after all this is said and done, but make sure to go by and visit. It's a wonderful group of people. You'll love the workout class. It's run by one of our good friends, Carl Zimmerman. And anytime that you need to do anything for Wing Chun, Glenn's your man. So anyway, but Glenn, thank you very much for being on. And hang on, I think we got one more thing. Oh, Master Joe says, glad to listen to the both of us. So that was great.
Master Joe.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. I really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Right, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
No.